All right, next up is the Madness box. Similar to the Tanares Adventures box, I'm going to open this and then we'll look real close here at the miniatures that are inside. So for people that don't know, the Madness box, oh man, this is getting a lot harder than I thought it would be. Whoa. Hopefully not knock over my camera here in the process of doing this. All right, so the Madness box is the stretch goal box that came from the Tanares Adventures and Arena of the Contest 1.5. This is the painted version. So if you've seen any other unboxing videos, they did not have this one. So I think this should be the first for that Madness box. And we have the Tanares symbol here with, or logo with the Augur here down there. And let's get into here. So just so you know, you can still play against these characters even without the miniatures. But I mean, this is a miniatures game, guys. Like, how could you not want this on your table? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, this thing. The coloring looks really good. It's a darker purple, I would say, with kind of like a burgundy tongue, yellow eye. Definitely looks a lot more shaded. I know when we had talked about the dragons at one point before, people were concerned about, you know, them not being essentially washed enough. But this looks great. And then we have the hand down there at the bottom. So we'll look more at that, but that is the Augur. We have that Chimera here. It's kind of a more orange color around his body. Of course, got the dragon, goat, lion, snake body. And actually, it's kind of funny. This container is a lot like the Dragon Collection box. So it's just going to be a single large slot. And this is the Undead Knight here. Don't want to spoil exactly who he is, but if you have followed the story at all from originally the campaign, you probably kind of know who that is. Next, we got the demon here. Like I said, we'll come back to these and look a lot closer at them. Demon with a lot of chains and skulls around him, looking good. All right, here is the Titan. So I know some people had some issues with the coloring on his skin. There's actually a story reason as to why they went with this for the painted version. I'll talk about that more once we get back to him. But he is, I mean, he's pretty tall. I wouldn't say he's like a super large miniature, but he's decent sized. We have the Lich here, who is just a normal, like, hero-sized miniature. You're going to face him a couple times throughout the Tanares Adventures campaign, and is one of the big bad guys. Really, all of these guys are, you know, the big bads of the game. And now probably the one a lot of people are probably excited for, because this was what people really wanted, was a gigantic spider. And this is Bellara here, the Arachne Queen, and she is beautiful. These legs are just freaking massive. We'll look at it more here, but this is the painted Bellara, and hope you guys like that. So we'll get back here in a second so you guys can see each of these miniatures in more detail. All right, now we are looking here at our Madness box miniatures up close. This is Bellara, the Arachne Queen here. So basically queen of spiders here. This is her painting, the painted version here. So you notice Bellara, she's got some red kind of tipping here going on the top wings of her legs, and then it kind of fades into a grayish with just kind of a hint of the purple here at the bottom of them. So at least there's a little bit more dynamic coloring going on than just kind of one color throughout, which is pretty cool. Up here we have a bunch of spiders all kind of just going crazy at the top of her staff there. She's got a pretty, I'd say, pretty brightish red color for her hair, and then kind of moving around to the back. This is pretty kind of solid black, except just kind of up here at the top we have a little bit more of that really like light violet purple kind of coloring. And then kind of coming around each of these like additional like legs or whatever kind of things coming up around here. We got some color variation with a little bit red kind of going closer to her hair, and then a little bit more of the black, the gray at the bottom. And then down here, of course, we got all those spiders in the nest below here. But this is Bellara, the Arachne Queen, painted version. So hopefully you guys like her. Let's move on to the next one. We have the demon here. This actually was the same demon that was on the Imperial box from the first campaign. So you'll maybe recognize him some, and he was a stretch goal, of course, as well, just like all of these characters, except I believe maybe the Chimera might have been intended. But anyway, he's got a sword here. We got this skull into his big part of his sword. We also got kind of a similar skull demon thing on his belt, and then some skulls kind of going around. There's a lot of chains, looks like, on him. He's got chains kind of wrapping around with like a gold coloring that seems to kind of come from within him, and it's kind of like bursting out, almost like veins. It's kind of interesting. We got a bunch of skulls down here at the bottom that look pretty good there. There's a lot of wash that's going on, so especially like that one at the bottom. Like that real looks, defeated basically. Got more of his chains and hooks here, and a lot of kind of wash and darkening here on the back of the wings and the back of his head. And overall, I'd say the quality is pretty good. All of these Madness Box painted miniatures are not intended to be, better than a professional paint job. It's more intended to be a kind of getting you onto the table with something decent enough that you feel, like this was a good thing. You just didn't have to do it yourself, and it looks at least from the table looks good enough. But obviously there's some work that could be done if you wanted to kind of spruce these up a little bit more. I will say that there is like a varnish that they put on these. So keep that in mind, that if you are going to try to go that route, you'll have to basically get a little bit of that varnish off, but you may be able to just kind of paint over and then try to revarnish over. But I'm definitely not a paint expert. And so, we have plenty of people in our Discord who probably know way, way better than I do. And you should definitely check that out. This is the Undead Knight here. He's got a pretty awesome sword here with a metallic paint on his sword with some skulls there. Even his armor is kind of detailed with some different skulls emblazoned in his armor. And then even this, his cape almost kind of looks leathery. So I think they did, from the texturing and the coloring, I'd say pretty decent, especially for, kind of that leather look. And then he is riding his steed there, who has a little like skull. There's so many skulls in this game. It's hilarious. Kind of armor that is wrapped around him. And then, of course, he's basically like a demon horse to begin with. But this is the Undead Knight atop his steed, and a lot of a lot of skulls below him. So hopefully you like him. We'll move on to this one next, who hopefully we can get in the picture here. This is the Chimera, who is painted, and he is still pretty big. I think he probably is actually like the tallest one of all the others. So they got kind of this orange and washing color. I'd say maybe in the video that you guys might see, it looks maybe a little more orange. But in mine, I'd say it's closer to a red-orange mix on his wings and his body there. And then, right, he's on top of this rock here. We got the dragon head, the lion, the goat, and then down there we got the snake. And they actually do a pretty good progression here between kind of like this armory, scaly dragon thing kind of going into the snake, where you can definitely tell that it turns into a snake rather than kind of what's going on here. Definitely this area I feel could have got maybe a little more kind of color variation, just because it seems like it's just a little too similar to between the wings and the tail. But there's a little more coloring on the legs here, where it's a little more like yellows, I would say, mixed in. So at least a little more dynamic, at least for like the lion aspect of it. And then we got the heads, which definitely have individual colors, which definitely is going to help it stand out a lot more, that they're, essentially like 3 different or 4 different monsters within one. All right, that is the Chimera. I believe his name is like Ardlog. And you will be battling him in the campaign as well. All right, next is the Titan here. So I know, his coloring is a little controversial, but there is a story reason as to why his coloring is like that. You will understand as you get through the game. So I don't really want to ruin that, I guess, for people to, find out now as to what that is. But let you kind of figure out. So this is essentially before that event occurs. This is what the Titan looks like. And once that event happens, then yes, he looks a little different. So this is his weapon here. It is pretty clean. You'll see mine is just, since it is kind of like this soft plastic, it's a little, just absolutely slightly bent, but really not that bad at all. He's kind of got gold eyes, which is kind of a unique choice, I guess. And then he's got a gold yellowish armor on his body with, it almost looks like, I don't know exactly what animal that is on his belt, but it almost, I don't know, it almost makes me look like, think it's like a goat or a cow or something. Like, I don't know what exactly that is. And then we got some variation here on his pants, which is kind of a dark green, like kind of foresty green color. And then of course we have the dragon head here, who I would assume this would be like a freshly killed one, because it doesn't really make sense as like a skull, but maybe that's the coloring they're going for. It's just, it looks very drained of life here, I guess. And then we have a sword going through it, which I don't know if that's supposed to be his sword or if that's somebody else's sword and he's just walking by, but I assume that he is a dragon destroying machine here. This is the Titan, and I know, he's definitely not the tallest, so maybe some people will be disappointed by that, but I think he looks, still pretty decent. The I was just noticing here that he actually has a pretty decent shading within his beard and kind of going into these horns he has. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully you can see it a little bit better in this angle. Okay, and then moving on to the smallest miniature here. This is the Lich. So the Lich here is a bad guy who will show up a few different times. He kind of has his own motivation within the campaign. You'll kind of learn, but looking at the miniature, he's got some really light detailed here, purple on his hat, helmet, whatever you want to call it there, as well as on the kind of collar thing he wears around the top. And then, of course, you've got this blue flame effect in his hand and then in his scepter. And then you'll notice a little gem on there as well on his chest. And then he's got this belt that goes down. So we're kind of getting some purples, some kind of teal colors. We're getting golds. And then we got some skulls down here at the bottom. And then there is a wash that is on the Lich here that tries to give him a little bit of definition on his like cloak basically. But I think it's okay enough to get on the table quality, but it's probably my least favorite coloring of what we've seen so far. But like I said, these are intended for you to be able to get them on the table as quickly as possible and just be playing the game and worry less about the painting aspect. So let's go to my favorite character, and I think I've mentioned this a few times before, but the Augur is probably my favorite paint job and model here of the Madness box. I really like this hand down here at the bottom. Kind of like there's this muck that is below the Augur that basically is just whatever you go in does not come back out. And then you'll see that there is a skull right there as well, also covered in this muck. Moving up here to the face. See if we can try to get a little glint there, but he has a metallic on his eye. So he kind of shines a little bit in the eye, which is pretty cool. His mouth is fantastic. It definitely looks very gruesome and disgusting. And overall, fantastic mouth area. Looks absolutely amazing. Really one of the top things I like about this model is I feel like these spikes here are a really good contrast with the purple. There is a wash over the purple, and in some areas a little bit better than other areas, but it helps kind of make these tentacles stand out, because when you look at, like, for example, these sections here, even though these are like tentacles, but because they don't have those, these bony parts that stick out, it's a little harder to see. So maybe if you were painting this yourself, you can kind of make these a little more dynamic or interesting, but I'd say, these were really important for helping make this model look fantastic. And then he's got kind of these suction cups, which are kind of like a grayish color. Not super excited about that color choice, but overall the Augur is still my favorite paint job here of the Madness box. Let me know what you guys think about these characters, and we'll see you at the next one.